Yesterday, we stopped at this paragraph about the second perspective of the Buddha, of looking at the Buddha. From this perspective, the Buddha is seen as one who had already made preparations for his supreme attainment over countless past lives and was destined from birth to fulfill the mission of a world teacher. Let's continue with the next paragraph. The three texts in section 3 are biographical accounts consistent with this naturalistic point of view. They offer us a portrait of the Buddha stark in its realism, bare in its naturalism, striking in its ability to convey deep psychological insights with minimal descriptive technique. In text chapter 2, section 3.1, we read about his renunciation, his training under two famous meditation teachers, his disillusionment with their teachings, his solitary struggle, and his triumphant realization of the deathless. Text chapter 2.3, section 3.2 fills in the gaps of the above narrative with a detailed account of the Bodhisattva's practice of self-mortification, strangely missing from the previous discourse. This text also gives us the classic description of the enlightenment experience as involving the attainment of the four jhanas, states of deep meditation, followed by the three vijas, or higher types of knowledge. The three types of higher knowledge are the knowledge of the recollection of past lives, the knowledge of the passing away and rebirth of beings, and the knowledge of the destruction of the taints. While this text may convey the impression that the last knowledge broke upon the Buddha's mind as a sudden and spontaneous intuition, text chapter 2, section 3.3 corrects this impression with an account of the Bodhisattva on the eve of his enlightenment, reflecting deeply upon the suffering of old age and death. He then methodically traces this suffering back to its conditions by a process that involves, at each step, careful attention, yoniso manasikara, leading to a breakthrough by wisdom, panyaya abhisamaya. This process of investigation culminates in the discovery of dependent origination, which thereby becomes the philosophical cornerstone of his teaching. Let's here first define a few difficult words like naturalistic. First definition, derived from real life or nature, or imitating it very closely. Yeah. But Bhikkhu Bodhi might take the third definition here, of or according to the philosophy of naturalism. So what exactly is philosophy of naturalism? I think we need to consult Google for this. Here, in philosophy, naturalism is the idea or belief that only natural laws and forces, as opposed to supernatural ones, operate in the universe. There's a whole paragraph explaining this, but yeah, I think I'm not going to read it here. Okay, let's go back to the text. So the text in this section is consistent with this naturalistic point of view. The point of view where the Buddha comes up naturally in this universe. They offer us a portrait of the Buddha stark in its realism, stark, severe or bare in appearance or outline, so showing a more realistic side of the Buddha, and bare in its naturalism, striking in its ability to convey deep psychological insights with minimal descriptive technique. So this is more consistent with the perspective of the Buddha as a human who struggled to reach enlightenment. Yeah, we will take a look again this one in more details in the sutta. Any questions or comments so far? Or any difficult words that you see here? Okay, if not, we can continue reading the next paragraph. Sister Billy, would you like to read?
It is important to emphasize that, as presented here and elsewhere in the Nikayas, see below, page 353 to 59. Dependent origination does not signify a joyous celebration of the interconnectedness of all things, but the precise articulation of the conditional pattern in dependence upon which suffering arises and ceases. In the same text, the Buddha declares that he discovered the path to enlightenment only when he found a way to bring dependent origination to an end. It was thus the realization of the cessation of dependent origination and not merely the discovery of its origination aspect that precipitated the Buddha's enlightenment. The simile of the ancient city, introduced later in the discourse, illustrates the point that the Buddha's enlightenment was not a unique event, but the rediscovery of the same ancient path that had been followed by the Buddhas of the past.
Thanks, Sister Billy. Bhikkhu Bodhi says it's important to note, to emphasize that dependent origination does not signify a joyous celebration. Joyous celebration of what? Of the interconnectedness of all things. Let me highlight in red here. So dependent origination is a precise articulation of the conditional pattern in dependence upon which suffering arises and ceases. Here, the Buddha says, he discovered the path to enlightenment only when he found the way to bring this dependent origination to an end. Let me highlight this too. It was thus the realization of the cessation. This Bhikkhu Bodhi highlight this. The cessation of dependent origination and not merely the discovery of its origination aspects that precipitated the Buddha's enlightenment. What is precipitated? To cause to happen suddenly, unexpected, or prematurely. Second definition, cause to move suddenly and with force. Yeah, so we can replace precipitated with cause. The realization of the cessation of dependent origination that caused the Buddha's enlightenment. And then there's also the simile of the ancient city, that the Buddha's enlightenment was not a unique event, but the rediscovery of the same ancient path that had been followed by the Buddhas of the past. So what does that mean? The path has always been there. The Buddha just rediscovered it and then expounded for all of us. Okay, I think we can read one more paragraph. Sister Aikim, would you like to read?
Text 2.4 resumes the narrative of text 2.3.1, which I had divided by placing in the two alternative versions of the Bodhisattva's quest for the path to enlightenment. We now rejoin the Buddha immediately after his enlightenment, as he ponders the weighty question, whether to attempt to share his realization with the world. Just at this point, in the midst of a text that has so far appeared so convincingly naturalist, a deity named Brahma Sahampati descends from the heavens to plead with the Buddha to wander forth and teach the Dharma for the benefit of those with little dust in their eyes. Should this scene be interpreted literally as a symbolic enactment of an internal drama taking place in the Buddha's mind? It is hard to give a definitive answer to this question. Perhaps the scene could be understood as occurring at both levels at once. In any event, Brahma's appearance at this point marks a shift from the realism that colors the earlier part of the sutta back towards the mythical symbolic mode. The transition again underscores the cosmic significance of the Buddha's enlightenment and his future mission as a teacher.
Thanks, Sister Aikim. This sutta again shows the mythical symbolic mode of the second perspective of the Buddha. A deity named Brahma Sahampati. And this story is quite famous, if you can recall. This deity requested the Buddha descends from the heavens and then plead with the Buddha to wander forth and teach the Dhamma for the benefit of those with little dust in their eyes. For us, we have too much dust in our eyes. We have cataract. We cannot see the truth. So again, this text will show, instead of the realistic side of the Buddha, it shows the second perspective of the view of the Buddha, the mythical symbolic mode. This line. The transition again underscores the cosmic significance of the Buddha's enlightenment and his future mission as a teacher. Okay, I think we have time for one more paragraph. Okay, how about Sister Doreen? Would you like to read?
Thank you, Marcel.
Brahma's appeal eventually prevails and the Buddha agrees to teach. He chooses as the first recipients of his teaching the 5 ascetics who had attended on him during his years of ascetic practices. The narrative accumulates in a brief statement that the Buddha instructed them in such a way that they all attained the deathless nibbana for themselves. However, it gives no indication of the specific teaching that the Buddha imparted to them when he first met them after his enlightenment. That teaching is the first discourse itself, known as the setting in motion of the wheel of the Dharma.
Thanks, Sister Doreen. So after the Brahmas asked the Buddha to teach, the Buddha finally agrees to teach. Let me see here. I think there was a point where the Buddha was hesitant because the Buddha had doubt whether we can understand the teachings. But the Buddha went on to a survey the landscape and then take a look. Is there anyone who can understand the teaching? Then the Buddha observed, oh, there could be some beings with little dust in their eyes that could understand the teachings. And that's why the Buddha agrees to teach. So at least this story is what I heard from Shifu. Who was his first recipients? Is the 5 ascetics who had attended on him during his years of ascetic practices. That teaching is the first discourse. Itself is known as, this discourse is quite famous, the setting in motion of the wheel of Dharma. Okay, I think this is a good time to stop. Any questions or comments? Okay, if not, let's do a dedication. 愿消三障除烦恼，愿得智慧真明了，普愿罪障悉消除，实是常行菩萨道。阿弥陀佛。